Hello, everyone. Today is the 1st of May. This has been recorded earlier, but we are showing it on the 1st of May, International Workers' Day. And today we are going to talk to people who are actually working out there in the field. And you know about this series where we are talking regularly to people regarding issues around corona and coronavirus and its various aspects. And today we're going to talk to people who are out there and actually working in the fields. And today we have with us Raza from Ahmedabad, Birisha from Guwahati, Abu from Delhi, Ajanta from Bangalore. So without any further delay, let me start talking to Ajanta. Ajanta, you are working in Bangalore, and exactly what are you doing there?
Raman, I have a school right inside the slum. You won't believe, though, my school is, I cannot call it a school, I can only call it a learning center. 2 years back, I just happened to cross that place, and you won't believe those in the high up of IT corridor. So I started going back to the slum, talking to the parents to find out why the children were not in school. And all that they said was, we work from morning till evening. We have no time or the inclination to send them to school. We are worried of them getting lost, kidnapped, whatever. I realized that problem was really serious. So I I had another friend and my elder sister who's a special educator with me that day, and I said we have to do something here. And I insisted that we start just teaching them. I had no plans at that time. So this is how my work started in a huge slum of 6,000. Now, before the lockdown was announced, my team realized that these parents are all migrant workers and they all come from either Northeast or West Bengal or from various parts of the country. And very soon they'll be left without any food. So before the government could reach food to them, we decided to distribute food. And we decided to give only dry ration to them because that was the only thing that would last them for long and would keep them away from hunger. But procuring at that time was very difficult. But anyway, we managed and we distributed it.
Abu, tell us a little bit about your work. What exactly are you doing there?
Basically, when the national lockdown was announced, before that, the state lockdown was announced by the CM of Delhi, and I realized that there will be there are a high chance that the daily wage worker will be worst affected with this pandemic. So I created a campaign, crowdfunding campaign on ourdemocracy.in, and I just reach out to my friends. I have some 1.5 lakh followers over Instagram and Facebook. So I reach out to them that I'm running this campaign to support the daily wage workers, and we need your support. And people contributed, and I remember on very first day, my first goal was to achieve like 5 lakh rupees. I was targeting a small section of Old Delhi. I live in Old Delhi, so I was targeting the Old Delhi area. There are a lot of daily wage workers in the Chandni Chowk area, in the Lal Kuan area, and who are like planning to move out. And I got to know from my sources that these guys are their wage will be affected, like they earn 200 rupees or 300 rupees per day, and they will move out of Old Delhi if there is no wage in this area. So I planned that let's do a crowdfunding campaign, and we raised around my first goal of 5 lakh rupees achieved in 2 days. And we bought some ration kit and distributed to them. We provided them the cooked food, and we realized that the demand is very high, and we are getting the panic calls from all over Delhi. And I think we were on an average getting the ration kit and the food requirement of for almost 2,000 to 5,000 person daily. So I extended the crowdfunding goal to 20 lakh rupees. Now it is for 50 lakh rupees, and achieved the 20 lakh rupees in 4 days. And I realized a lot of my friends are doing the similar kind of work with their personal funds, and they would not be able to continue with their personal funds. So I speak to them that let's work collectively. Our common goal is same, that we want to provide help to the delivery workers. Let's work collectively. We a WhatsApp group is collectively created with the name of Delhi Relief Collective, and we added like some 160 volunteers who were working on the ground, some NGOs, some initiatives, some collectives, and some individuals and activists who were working on the ground and um, on their personal with their personal fund and with their personal capacity. So there are 4 or 5 NGOs who have funds and who have raised the crowdfunding campaigns through the crowdfunding campaign, and some NGOs who have funds. So we were extending our support to the network across the Delhi. So suppose if there is a requirement of 1,000 kits at Northeast Delhi, and we see because the Northeast Delhi region was affected during the Delhi riots, everybody was rushing there to provide the kit, and we realized that there is a lot of duplicacy happening, and these are the same people who are providing the kit. So we created a data bank of the people who are beneficiaries who are getting the kit, and we just set up a data bank system on a specific NGO is working on a specific area. So if we are getting a lead of that particular area, we just reach out to them that you need to provide ration to this person, and in this way we were able to save the funds and utilize funds to the maximum people instead of reaching out to the same people again and again.
How long do you think you can carry on doing this? How
Uh,
will be a limit, right? Finally,
like currently there is a point that the crowdfunding campaign is stuck at 31 lakh rupees, and we are not able to pull that much fund, which we were able to raise in initial 7 days or 4 days. uh, right now we have to make a lot of effort because it is already over a month, and obviously people are working from their home, and they have lack of funds as well. The salary has been cut down. So primarily, it is a duty of the government, state government, or the center government to fulfill the gap. We can only fulfill the vacuum, but with the present funds, like we have 1 or 2 lakh rupees left with the fund that we have raised, I don't think we would be able to continue with the same speed that we were continuing the work. But yeah, we can obviously provided the manpower and everything, and our network and assistance. So we already have the we can be a support system, and we cannot take over the complete responsibility, but we can fill the gap, the vacuum created.
we'll get back to you. Vidisha, if you can tell a little bit about your work, what you are doing in Guwahati.
So we started our work around 1st of April, and before that we thought the government would reach out to these people mostly in the slums, because Assam and particularly Guwahati, the problem is a lot of people here have already migrated out. So it's basically the slum areas that needs to be tended in times like this. So 2 of our team members, they already work in an NGO. So they had an idea about how the people living in slums are and how they'll be affected. So we got a list of those names of their families, and we started distributing. And along with our team, there were only 2 other teams who were operating in Guwahati, who were distributing relief. And
What were you
even though the
distributing?
dry ration kits,
Okay.
along with soap and all of that, just dry ration kits. Cooked food was provided in an area where people were on the streets. So we somehow managed to convince the admin that these people on the streets need to be taken somewhere, and they shifted them to some halls. And after that, no people were on the streets. So basically, it were the slums that were targeted. And across Guwahati, 3-4 groups were only working, but up to now, we were able to, only our team, we were able to distribute to around 2,000 people, and the other teams likewise 2,000 to 3,000 people. Mostly all of the people in slum areas have they have been provided in Guwahati. But the problem that we were also facing is a lot of calls were being made from migrant workers of Assam who are living outside Assam, from Maharashtra, from Andhra. So those needed to be tended as well. So whatever we could, like monetarily or however, we tried to reach out to them, and also the migrant workers that were in Guwahati. So I was working on a helpline, All India helpline for migrant workers. So from there we would be receiving calls for the migrant workers from Bengal, Bihar, UP mostly. They were all of them, those who were stranded in Guwahati. Their demand were like food ration is okay, but then they wanted to go back home
Microphone.
very bad.
Microphone.
Yes, and they wanted to go back home. But although we have been trying to reach out to the government regarding that, there has been no response. So by far,
How have you been raising your funds?
crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding.
Yeah, we were helped by well-wishers and people on Facebook and Instagram. And after the like almost 1,000 people were done, after that a few NGOs reached out.
So, Raza, if we can get to you, I can't see you still. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm
Hello.
here. Yeah, I'm here.
So, tell us about who are you working with and where are you working? Just a little bit about. You are in Ahmedabad, right?
Yes, I am in Ahmedabad. As such, I work with a few NGOs in Ahmedabad. 3 of them are educational institutes, one is blood bank, and one is old age home. Mostly, I'm connected with one NGO, which is near my house since maybe 11 years in college, Shaheen Foundation, and I'll talk about that only. The rest of them, I've been working on and off. Shaheen Foundation is basically, I'll just give a brief of a minute and then I'll come back to what we are doing. So, it's basically giving free tuition classes to underprivileged students who are going to school but they cannot afford to go to tuitions. There is a tuition culture here in Ahmedabad, and those who cannot afford to go to school, we also provide fees and stuff like that. I'm working with sir. He is having an oil refinery and he's a cricket coach as well. So I came in contact with him due to cricket. Okay, coming to this lockdown stuff, the day lockdown was announced, after that, and Shaheen Foundation works regularly providing kits to 20 families on every month basis who are widows, who don't have anyone to earn in their, there's no breadwinner in their house. So we have got that 20 people, and every year during Ramzan we spend zakat and to the needy people. So we have got list of people who are actually working on day-to-day basis, families who have a sole breadwinner or two of them, and they work on day-to-day basis, and then they get what we say food for themselves. So as soon as lockdown was announced, we were aware that okay, that might be a problem, because we are morely operating in 4 very much poor people area, like very lower class people area. I'll not say slum, but again, not well to do. So we were aware that okay, we have less. So we started again collecting money from people. People here is funds are coming from the businessmen. The sir Shaheen Foundation founder is Amir Neman, and he has got group of friends, builders and industrialists, small people, CAs, educationalists. So he is in contact with everyone, and funds are already there with Shaheen Foundation. So he again started that okay, we'll be doing this, and funds started flowing to come from the known people. And then again, we also reached out to via social media, so we could get some amount from the unknown as well. Coming to the number of kits and everything, I'll give you the data. Just a second. Yes, we distributed almost 2,247 kits till today, dry ration kits, and each ration kit had 5 kg wheat flour, 2 kg rice, 2 kg sugar, 2 kg oil, 1 kg chana dal, 500 grams of spices, this is mirchi, haldi and salt, 3 types, then 250 grams of tea packet, and milk powder. So whosoever needed milk powder, they used to say us. When we got data, we used to call, okay, where do you need? We had kept a portal for WhatsApp number and a hotline. A specific number was allotted for that. So whosoever called, and they used to message us. So we used to reach them, and like that. So till today, 2,247 kits, ration kits are distributed. So on an average, this kit will last 15 to 20 days for a family of 4. And other than that, there were few initiatives which are taken. We distributed a packed lunch to 700 people, to policemen and the people working on migrants who were moving and who were working for being of the other people. There were 750 bottles of yogurt, that big 500-gram special yogurt was there. A businessman here who has his factory. Then 3,000 pieces of biscuits, 30,000 eggs, and vegetables, 9 big tempos. Again, this sir has got influence. Influence means he knows people who are resourceful. So this
So
way,
now we are hearing that the lockdown may be extended till the 21st of May.
yes.
And the kind of people that you are working with, just briefly, because we'll very soon run out of time.
Yes.
What kind of livelihoods do they have, and what is the chances of them getting back their job, losing their job? What is the kind of scenario?
Yes, I'll come to that, because they don't specifically do any professional jobs. Most of them, I'll say. When I say they, means maybe 90-95% of them have no professional job. They're working as like rickshaw pullers, maybe mechanics, puncture repairers. Then daily wages, they'll go and pick up, like transport offices, they'll go and they'll pick up like that. Many of them are like daily wages at home, housemates. So as such, they are not worried about all these things. They want that it should lift so they can go and start working. Whatever work they get, they start working. So they fulfill their daily needs of eating. That's it.
I understand.
Yeah.
So in that market, the work should be there. Meaning in whatever what they're doing, that work won't stop even after lockdown. So if the lockdown goes up, then they will be able to work. That is what they think, right?
Yeah, hopefully, considering that all the avenues where they were working starts.
Yeah. But if the nature of job changes, suppose there is no rickshaw travel anymore, then there'll be problem.
Then there will be problem. They used to take it on rent. Rickshaw, they used to take it on rent.
Yeah.
For 400 rupees a day. So they will rent it and then they will roam and they'll earn. So if rickshaws are not allowed, so they cannot do anything.
Yeah. So Bidisha, what is the kind of scenario in terms of uncertainty of going back to work? What is the kind of thing that's happening there? What is the fear that people have?
So the slum people here, they are basically daily wage earners and domestic workers mostly, and their husbands are maybe they do like labor work in someone's houses or pick up fruits in street vendors kind of. So once the lockdown is lifted and if the markets are open, their job securities are intact. But these people who are coming back, some of the migrant workers, they have come back on foot from like other areas, and most of them had managed to come before 24th and 25th. So around 20th, 21st, they were coming back because Maharashtra already the factories were closing, and a lot of these people have returned from Maharashtra. So these people who are now like they are almost jobless and they do not even want to return back, and they cannot obviously very soon. So these people need to be tended, and like the government should focus on their lives more once the lockdown is lifted, because this is not going to ease out any soon. Although the corona situation is much better in Northeast and even in Assam, it's almost like managed. Only I think in Assam it's only 12 people who are under scrutiny and under observation in the treatment right now. But even then, there are a lot of people who are coming back and they are jobless now with a family of like 4 or 5 to feed, and all of these people, their life security, job security hangs. Like we can't say they are not even willing to go back.
So what you are saying that in terms of corona infections, if there is a high rate of infection in Maharashtra, that will definitely affect life in Assam, because a lot of Assam people in Assam would go to work there, and they don't want to go there or work available, that kind of thing. So it's very interlinked, and therefore the economic impact will be on Assam also. That's what you are saying, right?
Yes.
Abu, what is the scenario there? What kind of people, what are the fears and hopes, and what kind of jobs?
So like in Delhi, the situation is kind of similar, that the daily wage workers, once back to their work, they either work like if there is avenues where they are working. But the problem is worst affected people who I'm speaking with a lot of youngsters and people over the internet, and so they were saying that there is a job losses, they lost their job, there is a 30% cut in their salaries. A friend is working without salary till the lockdown done, so there is no pay. So these guys are the worst affected by the lockdown, apart from the daily wage workers. So I think there will be less job security for the middle class people, and once they are fired, like it will be difficult for them for another 2 to 3 months to find a new job.
So do you as an organization and the people on their own, if government support doesn't come in, have the ability to keep on fighting or keep on surviving for another 3 months?
I don't think we will be able to survive unless we have the funds or the government support us and whatever.
It will be difficult.
Yeah, it will be difficult for the next 3 months.
I don't think they are overly worried about their job because most of them work as security guards or housekeeping staff in these big corporates. And they kind of feel secured about getting their jobs back once the lockdown is lifted. But there are some who are panicking about going back home, and that is where we are counseling them to stay put, understand the situation, and not to rush back home because there won't be anything much waiting for them back home. So therefore, we are constantly counseling them to stay because we keep telling them that once the lockdown lifts, the jobs will be back and they'll start earning once more, and that will help them get back on track. So I don't think that should be a problem. But the problem there is if the lockdown continues for too long, paying the house rent will be a huge problem. The room rents will be a problem for them because they have got their salaries for March, and since they've got money for the food, they did not have to spend on that. So they have saved that money for the room rent. But let's see now what happens.
Okay. Sorry, Vidisha, you were saying something. Yeah.
Yes, Rangan. It'll be a huge problem if the lockdown continues even outside, because here it's the economy of Assam. Mostly, it's an agrarian-based society. Except Guwahati, mostly there is agriculture, and agriculture has been massively hit. Agriculture has been hit massively because of the lockdown, because the markets were closed. And apart from that, there are poultry rearers, there are pig farms, dairy farms, and all of those people, they have suffered huge losses, and no compensation so far. Nothing so far like policy has been taken by the government for their lives. So it will be a huge they'll suffer hugely. Apart from that, I think once there should be compensation for that because the losses are already made. And apart from that, if the migrant workers who come from Maharashtra, Kerala, Gujarat, Andhra, Bengal, these migrant workers, around 4 or 5 lakh, if they come back home, they'll again be jobless, and that's a huge population to be tended to. Like 4 or 5 lakh workers, there 4 or 5 people in each family, so 20-25 lakh people will not have any food for months. So this will be a huge problem in the coming months. So that will be a problem that people here will be facing in the coming months, I guess. Apart from that, this workers in Guwahati especially, that shouldn't be much of a problem if the lockdown is lifted here.
Okay, thank you, Raja. One last question, I think, before we end this conversation because we don't have much time. Now, in most schools, upper class schools, we are seeing they're shifting to online education. Now,
Yes.
since you work with poor children in slum areas, what do you think will be the impact of online education? Will they be able to participate? What do you think is going to happen?
So we can participate, sir, but to be very frank, we are not at all thinking on education aspect as on today, because it's still 2 months from today that any schools will start. So our main aim today was, like I just had discussion day before yesterday with sir, sir, how will we go with this 10th and 12th, because board syllabus we start in April first week every year. this is almost April is ending, and I was worried and discussed with sir. So sir told me we can do this online courses and we can always record videos and send to the kids, but we don't know how they can cope, how they can take it, because they are not habituated with this. For them, traditional method, sir teacher is standing in the in the class using chalk and pen, chalk and blackboard. This is the only way. Even they are amused to use this marker pens in whiteboards they see, so they are very much excited and amused. So I think we can always move towards this online education, but unless we at least train them once that how to use this, it's really difficult for us as on today to teach them like that way. And we don't know how they study, means how they take it. If they just keep video on and they are reading, they are understanding or not, they cannot ask counter questions.
Okay, I think that's about it because we're running out of time. Thank you all of you for doing very good work and helping people as much as we can in this hour of dire crisis when people or institutions who should be helping them are not doing much. So it's up to us ordinary people to do whatever we can. And we hope to get in touch with you again. And on behalf of Ebongala, I thank you once again. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.